going on, everybody? Today we're going to dive into flipping and pitching and tell you everything you need to know. Alright, first things first, I got to give a big shout out to everybody. You know, I'm getting good followers, good subscribers on this, so I'd like to think that you guys are liking it, so that's a good thing, and I appreciate the support. So today, flipping and pitching, you know, we're going to get target oriented. We're going to see if we can get some fish to come out of the cover, and to do so, there's some things that you need to do and some skills you need to develop. So I think first we'll start out with gear. You can't go flipping and pitching with an ultralight, right? So what we're looking at here for a rod, 7 foot length minimum, medium heavy power minimum. Okay, and what I'm using today, this is a 7'3" heavy power fast action rod. Okay, and you need that power. You got big hooks. You got to be able to get the fish out of the stuff you're flipping. So you got to have a big stout rod for that. And then line. You got to have big stout line for that too. You know, a lot of people flip with braid, and that's fine. I personally don't like braid unless it's grass only. Braid around wood, no bueno. Braid around rocks, no bueno. It is not abrasion resistant like they tell you. It will fray and it will break and leave you heartbroken. So if you're going to be flipping around that kind of stuff, just use heavy mono or heavy fluorocarbon. And what I've got here is just 20-pound monofilament. You know, I'm kind of cheap. I buy big spools of mono, lasts me a really long time. I can respool frequently without, you know, breaking the bank. So reels for this, 7s and 8s on the gear ratios, because you want to be able to catch up to the fish quick. The last thing you want is a fish to run you through the reeds a few feet before you can actually catch up to him and set the hook. So fast, heavy duty reels, longer, heavy power rods, big thick line. You know, that's where you're at. So we're gonna move on to hooks. I'm gonna show you how I rig things up here in just a second. All right, let's get rigged up. So again, 20-pound line. You need a couple things for this. You don't want to do a normal Texas rig. You want your bait and your weight to fall into the same place. You don't want one falling on either side of a limb. So bobber stoppers. Okay, that's the first thing that goes on. Just slide the line through the little loop on the bobber stopper, and then you just pull the bobber stopper onto the line. Seems easy enough, right? Until that happens. It's a little hard with the thicker line to get that on there, but we got it. So. All right, bobber stopper first. Helps to move these if you wet your line a little. Slide it up out of the way. Okay, next, weight. This is only a 3/8 ounce. We might have to go heavier depending on how thick the cover is. If you're fishing extremely dense cover, you know, that's when your 1.5 ounce weights, things like that start to come into play. But I don't think we're gonna need that heavy. This is kind of sparse. Of course, I picked the one weight. It's got something jammed in it. So we're gonna stick with a 3/8 to start, if I can get it threaded. And then go up from there if we need to. I like lighter weights to start. I just feel like the bait moves a little more naturally, and it kind of gets this like almost slow shimmy to it. I don't know. Might be personal preference. Give me a minute. All right, we're back. New weight. There's something jammed in there I'm gonna have to punch out, right? So thread your weight in there, you know, tapered side up the line. And then the hook. When you're flipping, don't get a little chintzy hook, right? You got a heavy rod, you got heavy line. The last thing you wanna do is bend your hook out. So this is a heavy wire EWG hook. Thread that in, give it the old poke, bring it out the center. Okay, and then I'm gonna tie it on because of the knot I tie, which if you haven't seen that video, go check that out because it really is the easiest one to tie. So get it on there. That weight from the bait helps me, you know, spin around here. So there's that. You can buy dedicated flipping hooks if you want, and tie the snell knot if you want. In my experience, I've lost more fish that way, and it seems like you get snagged a little bit easier on things, whereas the EWG with that hook point in line with your eye tie, seems like you don't get hooked up as much. All right, so then push the Texas rig up, flip it around, and measure that out. Just go through them. We're gonna skin hook. Skin hook's important, so that way you don't get hung up on your stuff. So now that we got that, we can slide our bobber stopper all the way back down onto the bait. Now our bait's ready to go. I like to flip craws, tubes, but something that's kind of skinny with not a lot of flappers, because those flappers will get hung up on whatever you're flipping and your bait won't sink through. So this is about as flappy as I get. Senkos work really good for this too, you know, any bait like that. So next we're gonna move on to pitching and flipping. What's the difference between the two, how to do them, you know, and basically just that we call all of this flipping. Somebody's like, yeah man, I was flipping the bushes. Doesn't necessarily mean they were flipping, they were probably pitching. So we'll get into that. So pitching and flipping, two different techniques. We'll start with flipping. It's where you leave yourself about a reel's length of line, right? And then you pull out another arm's length, like so. This is for extremely close quarters pitching. You just lower your rod, get it out there. You follow it back with your hand to your rod. Then you can pick it up, do it again. Okay? That's if you're really close. You know, I mean, I can still get this out there pretty decently. You just drop the rod tip and then lift it, bring it back. That's for like your really close quarters, hitting a ton of spots right next to each other, kind of fishing. But what most people consider flipping is, take your bait here, right? Extend your arm, point your rod tip down, and as you swing your rod tip up, you let go of the bait, just like that. And you can get it out there pretty good distance. That's what most people say when they're flipping. Technically it's pitching, doesn't really matter, but those are the two ways that you're gonna wanna cast these baits into all the little pockets of the weeds and tules and trees and stuff. So that's how you do it. Do yourself a favor before you go out, do a little practice, you know, take yourself into the backyard, set up some Tupperwares and stand on a bucket, I don't know, do something, but practice this motion and get pretty good at it, so that way your casts are super accurate, because they have to be. Sometimes you're only talking about hitting holes, you know, the size of coffee cans or maybe less in order to be able to get to those fish. So practice, practice, practice. Right, now look in here, all of this is flippable, all this grass. See how it kind of goes out and overhangs? There's plenty of water back here at the shoreline for those fish to be in. So you got to fish this whole thing, pick it apart every foot or two, making casts into that. And then over here we have a ton of tules, reeds, whatever you want to call them, and all those overhangs and everything create a canopy, and you can bust in through there and those fish will be sitting in there, and you can get them out of there. As a matter of fact, a lot of times you're not gonna catch the fish out here, you're gonna catch them in there. Okay, so you got to learn how to work your bait through this kind of stuff and be able to make those casts. But that's what we're fishing today. All right, so we talked about the gear we need, how to rig it, how to cast it, and what to look at. Time to go fishing now. I'm gonna get the GoPro set up. We're gonna catch a few. All right guys, first cast here. I'm looking, I can see underneath these overhangs that there's some branches in the water. I've actually seen a little activity. So this is where that practice for casting comes in. I hope I don't flub it up on the first ones. This is my first cast of the day, but I'm gonna have to go under those overhangs, maybe even skip it to get it into that brush under there. So here we go. Lucked out, first try. Okay, so now it's in there. I click my reel over right away and I'm ready for that bite, because there's so many times when that bait, as soon as it hits the water, the fish are eating it, and you do not want these fish to be able to get you all tangled up in stuff, right? You're fishing cover, so you need to be engaged pretty much right away. Now you still want that bait to fall straight down, but you don't want them to be able to run off with it. So how you go about that is, as you cast, you leave your rod tip high. When it hits the water, drop it and click over, and now you're engaged. Don't give them too much slack. Give it a couple twitches. You know, I'm fishing a crawdad, so I want it to look like a craw. So I can give it a little drag, just a little bit like it's crawling on the bottom, then 2 twitches, boop, boop, because that's what a crawdad does when he feels frightened. He doop, doop, quick darts, you know, when they start kicking that tail around. So that's what we do for the craw. Twitch, twitch. And now when you are fishing this stuff, use your feel, right? You can tell when a fish bites, it hits it, or you know, it surges on you, right? But you want to be able to work it through limbs and stuff without getting too excited and setting the hook into limbs and stuff and losing a bunch of baits, getting frustrated. So just pull slowly. If you're putting pressure on it and a fish has it, he's going to let you know he's there. He's either going to chomp back down on it and try to suck it back in, or you know, he's going to pull on you because he's trying to run away with it. In my experience, very rarely is it the fish pick it up, you put pressure on it, and they drop it. They spit it out. Very rarely. Does it happen? Yeah, sure, fine. But in my opinion, if you let them have it and you just give them a little pressure, like that bait is trying to flee out of their mouth, they'll chomp on it harder. They ain't gonna let that meal go. So put some pressure on it. See, my line's nice and tight right now. I know I'm in something, some sort of tree, some sort of branch. So I'm just gonna pull through it slowly. And boop, there it went, popped out. Now I'm gonna let it drop again. Once you go over that branch, put your rod tip back down and let it sink. Let it sink straight back down where it was. You don't wanna pull it out of that good cover. And now we just wait. You know, the reason that fish are in this type of stuff, you know, there's a lot. You know, fresh growing plants, they put off oxygen, and oxygen is good for all fish, but you know, it attracts the bait fish and you know, the stuff that these bigger fish eat. And so if you can attract the little fish, you're definitely gonna get the big fish. But it provides cover for them. It provides shade. You know, bass being ambush hunters, they like to be in a spot where they feel like they have the upper hand. You know, not only is it protection for them, but it also gives them the advantage. So there's a lot of good things that come with cover like this. And I can see already, zooming around through all of this, like I have it, you know, pretty much every other pond, there's a ton of little fish swimming through this stuff. So I know they come up in here to eat those. You just got to be here when they are. So when I'm fishing it, there's a couple of different things that I do. First thing, you're gonna let it fall, right? Just let it fall on slack. Watching your line, you know, you can see them. If one picks it up a lot of time, they'll thump it and you'll see your line twitch, or they'll get it and start taking off with it, and all of a sudden you'll see your line pull tight really fast, like faster than what it should with that on there. So, but once it's in there, what I like to do, I like to let it sit at the bottom. And if a fish has followed it down, nose down on it, I just want to give it a little shake. Boop, boop, boop. And see if that triggers that fish to eat it, right? I pick up on it now, nobody's home, okay? The next one is I like to hop it up and down with it. That gets them arms flapping, up, back, up, and down, and might trigger them that way, okay? And then the third thing, before I pull it out, I pull it all the way to the top of that, right? And I just shake it. Because sometimes the bass are sitting up at the top of that canopy and the bait's down below them, so you got to get it up and put it right in front of their face, right? And I let it drop again. If a fish hasn't bit by then, that's it, next cast, on to the next spot. And even after I've done that, I try to be pretty quiet, and I'm gonna get up in here. That guy's gonna be a problem. Another little tip, guys, when you're pond fishing, before I get to barging up in there, I'm gonna make a cast. I don't wanna spook anything off that might be sitting right where I'm about to walk. I'm gonna fish it first, then I can go in there. Another trick is if you do pitch out, God damn it. If you do pitch out there and your bait gets stuck on the stuff on top, don't just reel it in. Try to finesse it to get it to fall into a little hole. Because those fish are used to seeing maybe like frogs or something, bugs, be on that stuff and fall in. And sometimes that can trigger a strike as well. So don't give up on it, you know, try to shimmy it through or drag it across the top of these reeds or whatever and drop it in a hole. A few more key things to look for, guys, is anything different on the bank. Like right here, we got this little grass patch, got some trash, but we also got a concrete wall. Anything that's different, you know, that can provide them any kind of cover is a good place to fish. You know, even looking back, we're gonna try to skip back into this tunnel a little bit, see if we can get one to come out of there, whoops, and eat it. Giving lessons. Look at you. Look at you. Giving lessons, getting bird nests. Okay guys, we got us a little juicy spot here. We got a whole bank full of nothing. Then we hit some reeds. I don't want to just go straight to the heart of those reeds, because I want to catch every fish in those reeds, not just the one in the middle. So I fish the outsides first before I start dumping my lure into the thickest, heaviest parts of it. That might help you catch a couple more fish. If you fish the outside first, you tend to not disrupt the fish on the inside. Whereas if you fish the inside first and catch one, you're gonna disrupt every fish in there. So we wanna be a little more tactical, I guess, in our approach there. Oh, damn it. Had one. Gave me the old tug right back down to it. Woo dang. That felt good. See if we can get him back. All right guys, when you miss a fish like that, go back in there after them. They can still be there waiting. Got one. There we go, baby. There we go. Just like that. Hell yeah. Oh, there we go, baby. It is. That's how it's done, folks. Now, I want you guys to look at this fish. Woo! Real quick, too. Big hooks, big line, heavy rod. Do not give these fish any play. See how that just fell out? Look at the hole that ripped in his mouth. You have got to keep pressure on these fish when you're flipping. Don't give them any leeway whatsoever. Just gotta keep going. Thanks, little buddy. There you go. Yeah. Hell yeah. All right, guys, that's that. I was able to catch one for you, thank goodness. So that's how you go about flipping and pitching. And it can be grass, it can be tules, it can be rocks. I mean, anywhere that you need to pinpoint cast a bait, that's how you want to do it. So hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions about it, or if you want to add anything, put it in the comments below of however you're watching this, TikTok, YouTube, whatever. And let's make sure that we cover everything and help people catch more fish. So I'm going to switch up tactics here and make another one. Stay tuned. Peace.